Are you struggling with data binding in your Xamarin.Forms application? You're not alone. Many developers face this challenge when transitioning from UWP to Xamarin. Today, we're going to unravel the mystery behind why your binding might not be working. I completely understand how frustrating it can be when your code seems perfect, but the binding just won't cooperate. It's a common issue that can leave you scratching your head. Let's dive into the specifics of your situation. Here's the situation. One user mentioned that they are rewriting their UWP C# app for Windows 10 into a Xamarin app using XAML. They are facing an issue where the binding for the list view's item source is not working, and Visual Studio is throwing an error about an unknown data context. Sound familiar? Let's explore this together. So what could be going wrong? The issue often lies in how the binding context is set up or how the properties are defined in your view model. We'll break it down step by step to identify the root cause. And stick around. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of how to fix your binding issues and get your list view displaying data correctly. To resolve the binding issue, the user should first ensure that the property name in the XAML matches the property name in the view model. In this case, the user is trying to bind to recording, but the property in the view model is named recordings. Next, the user should update the XAML to reflect the correct property name. This means changing the binding in the list view's item source to recordings. Additionally, the user should ensure that the list view is visible. Currently, it is set to isVisible = false. This should be changed to isVisible = true to display the list view. Finally, the user should verify that the data is being populated in the observable collection. They can do this by adding more items to the recordings collection in the view model. After making these changes, the user should run the application again to see if the binding works correctly. If there are still issues, checking for any additional errors in the output window can help. Fun fact: did you know that data binding in Xamarin.Forms is similar to magic? It can seem like your code is doing nothing until you realize the binding context is just a little off. Let's make that magic work. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. This user points out that in your view model, you have a member called recordings, but in your XAML you're trying to bind to recording. They suggest changing the binding from item source = binding recording to item source = binding recordings. Additionally, they note that since you're setting the data context in the code behind, you can ignore the XAML part related to data context. Here's a pro tip. Always ensure your properties are public and properly initialized in your view model. This simple step can save you a lot of headaches down the road. And there you have it. With these troubleshooting steps, your binding issues should be resolved and your list view will display data as expected. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and tricks on Xamarin development.